Greetings, listeners. Welcome to Consulting Between Friends. I am your host, Michael Holmes Jr. We have conversations regarding any topic that comes to mind. For instance, sports, entertainment, relationships, employment, and hobbies. Talking to people is very important to humankind. Communication with others create a joyful feeling that our mind and body need. Sometimes we encounter people who disrupt our thought process and create conflicts within ourselves. Some people like to twist words and manipulate people when talking. Those individuals choose to manipulate others who are weak minded individuals who need approval from others. They often manipulate those who may be more vulnerable or seeking approval from others. People who manipulate others frequently employ what is known as gaslighting. Yes, gaslighting is a popular term used today. Hearing the word gaslighting at first makes you very curious about how it is used in a sentence. In this episode, I will be interviewing Victor Sims Sr., a licensed clinical social worker in Louisiana, who will break down the meaning of gaslighting and explain how it is used in social settings, as well as the psychological ways it can affect one's perspective on a subject or person. The topic is gaslighting, the twisted mind games. We will return after a message from our sponsor. Everyone is always planning things, and advertising is needed to make it happen. So, if it's personal or business, let Pinpoint Designs and Images solve that problem. With Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC, you will receive quality work and professional service at a great price. The service that is offered: flyers, business cards, programs, invitations, photo books, ad booklets, and much more. Michael Holmes Jr., owner/principal designer of Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC, contact me by email or social media. Email address is pinpointdesignsandImages@gmail.com, and Instagram Pinpoint Designs, and Facebook Pinpoint Designs and Images. We are back. Before the interview begins, I want to give you some background on Victor Sims Sr. Victor and I are both members of the health ministry at St. Joseph the Worker Catholic Church in Monroe, Louisiana. He is a social worker and a licensed clinical social worker in Louisiana. Victor owns his own business, Victor Sims Counseling Services, which is located in Gretna, Louisiana. He is also a certified anger management specialist. Victor dedicates his time to educating and informing people about mental health issues. His practice focuses on providing counseling for individuals and families. Additionally, he is a regular guest on WBOK 12:30 a.m. radio in New Orleans, Louisiana. My guest is Victor Sims Sr. Now, welcome to Consulting Between Friends podcast.
Good evening. My name is Victor Sims. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have been working in mental health now for about 40 years in various positions at different facilities. West Jefferson Medical Center was primarily my main place of employment. River Oaks Hospital, which is also a psychiatric hospital, I also worked there for a while. Currently, I am running my own private practice called Victor Sims Counseling Services. I also previously started Sims Social Services, which is another therapeutic agency that deliver therapeutic services in the home of the clients. So this particular topic has been one that's very important to me because I see a great deal of it, not only in individual clients, but also in some of our elected officials as well. Utilizes this particular topic a great deal. And I think that the general public needs to have a good idea about what they're hearing, what they're listening to, so they can look beyond the surface of the conversation and go deeper into the actual meaning of what individuals who are our leaders are telling us. So this particular topic is, I think, very important and very timely, especially in the time and era that we're living today.
Yes, I can agree. I like how you explain yourself. And another thing, what I want to go ahead and you talk about is, so how was your day?
Well, today was I don't know, it was a little difficult today. I was a little tired today. I'm not. Maybe it was over the weekend that we did a lot of work over the weekend, working on some projects around my home, and also at our church. We had our yearly church picnic in the yard, and I was a part of that too. But other than that, it was a pretty good day. I just found myself a little more tired than I've normally been. But we was able to get through the day, and here I am now home, safe and sound.
Yes, I can totally agree. Yes, the family fun festival at church yesterday was amazing. I enjoyed participating in it, and I was exhausted after it.
Well, I saw you doing a lot of moving around yesterday. I was at least stationed there in one place running the spades tournament, which took off slowly, but eventually got steamrolling, and we had a pretty good time.
Yes. Well, through the whole thing, it turned out nice for the church, and everybody was there, so that's all that matters.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Well, we're about to start this interview.
Okay,
The first question is, what is gaslighting, and can you provide related examples for individuals?
sure. Gaslighting entails intentionally twisting, changing, or otherwise distorting reality to manipulate how others think or feel. Gaslighters mislead people to try to make them doubt their truth. As a result, victims of gaslighting often feel confused, insecure, lonely, and afraid to trust themselves. In a general perspective, that's what gaslighting would actually do. It causes people to doubt themselves, doubt their own sanity, doubt their own realities at times. And gaslighter is specifically doing this to the individual in order to get hands up on them on a particular topic or subject, or even just life in general that they may be experiencing together.
Yes. When you was explaining about gaslighting, it is really interesting perspective. And I heard you mention something about abuse. So people can be abused when they
Yes,
affecting with gaslighting, correct?
yes, yes. Emotionally and psychologically. You can be abused. By that I'm meaning that individual who is the target of the gaslighter is placed into an extreme emotional discomfort because they begin to doubt themselves. They doubt their own sanity. They doubt their own recollection. They doubt their own memories. And that is emotionally a very difficult place for any one of us to be in. We all exist and engage in behaviors based upon our certainty that this particular action on our part is effective and appropriate. When we begin to doubt that, it generates a great deal of stress and anxiety upon the individual who's being gaslit. They're very emotionally disturbed at this point in time, and psychologically, they're really in a bad place.
So the individual could be in a bad place and they might not recognize it. They don't know how to even deal with it, correct?
Well, they recognize it. They don't know what they're dealing with. Because they're now doubting their own concepts, their own thought patterns. They're wondering if what else have I missed on? How can this have gotten past me? How can I have been so fooled? So the individual is really emotionally in a bad place. Anxiety, depression will probably be the biggest emotion that's associated with the person who has been gaslit.
Yes, all those different symptoms you mentioned will stop somebody from thinking about certain things.
Yeah. Um, Again, if I felt confident in myself, I no longer feel that way. If I
Correct.
feel as though I know what I'm doing, I no longer feel that way. And unfortunately, the gas lighter will attempt to put themselves up as reality for the person who they've gas lit. Pretty much, if you just go along with what I'm telling you to do, you're gonna be okay. Basically, don't trust your own. I mean, don't trust your lying eyes. Just believe me.
Hmm. Yes, that can happen. And that does happen to some people as well. Well, the next question is, why do you think people gaslight others?
To take advantage of them, to abuse them in some way, shape, or form. Usually, it's some kind of emotional takeover that the gaslighter wants to do. And if they can successfully take over them emotionally, they can take over them physically as well and get the individuals engaged in behaviors that person would not normally get involved in. You can look at other situations. I'm going to use gang affiliations, where the gang affiliated individual who for some reason is forced into this is told how wonderful this affiliation is going to be, how we're going to look out for you, we're going to take care of you, we're going to be there for you as long as you do the thing that we want you to do. And most of those things are usually not, sometimes not legal, not moral, definitely not ethical. But this person now is trapped into this environment, feeling as though that their behaviors so much shape or form make them feel better if they go along with the gaslighter.
Yes. So basically, people who are being gaslighted, like the example you gave, they are really confused themselves and they're not sure how to handle the situation. So they basically will go along with the plan what the person is telling them, right?
Yes, exactly. That's definitely how it works, because they're not sure themselves anymore. The gaslighting has been successful, and a successful gaslit person doesn't trust their own thoughts and ideas. They will go along with whatever the gaslighter is telling them, because the gaslighter is going to make it sound real good. Going to make it sound like it's the best thing since sliced bread. In actuality, you're manipulating this individual to do what it is you want them to do, and you've taken away their ability to second guess even themselves, let alone the gaslighter himself.
Mhm. Well, what I'm realizing, and this is just the beginning of the interview, gaslighting has a lot that society deals with, and you don't even realize it, but actually it's a popular term that people are talking about more. And I'm learning things as well. So far for this interview, it's going to be really great, and I'm glad we're doing this tonight on this topic.
Wonderful.
Why do you think gaslighting is being spoken about more?
Well, I think that there has been much more of it being taken place. And this is a pessimistic view of, unfortunately, of our nation at this point in time. But I think individuals' drive for power and conquest within our nation has caused people to utilize um, unmoralistic, unethical methods in order to do so. Basically, they will tell you whatever it is you want to hear in order to get you to support or back them up. And in that case, you pretty much been gaslit. And they use certain other specific um, techniques as well. And if you don't mind, I like to go over a couple of those techniques.
Yes, you can.
Okay. One of them is distracting with compassion. Love you so much that you know I'll never intentionally hurt your feelings. How could you think I was flirting with her when you're the only one for me? See, that's an individual who's been seen engaging in inappropriate behavior, been confronted, and now will come up with the gaslighting statement. Again, love you so much, and you know I'll never intentionally hurt your feelings. How could you think I was flirting with her when you're the only one for me? Gaslighting partners will often sugarcoat toxic situations with kind platitudes as a way to distract their partner from their feelings. Unfortunately, this often causes their partner to feel like they're overreacting or being too harsh. So the individual then who's been gaslit will back away from their accusations of their partner as doing something inappropriate because now they're questioning their own sanity. They question their own assessment abilities. Another is minimizing or making fun of feelings. Abusers will call their loved ones overly sensitive, critical, or dramatic. They will also often get annoyed to make fun of them when they cry or show other emotional displays. As a result, the emotionally manipulated partner often feels ashamed and may try to withhold their feelings altogether. So now this person is feeling so guilty because they accused the gaslighter of inappropriate behavior, but the gaslighter did their thing, and now the individual is feeling like they don't quite know what they're talking about anymore. They might have been wrong, or they might have gotten a mistake, or now they're apologizing to the gaslight something inappropriate. So
So,
those are
so
some examples of how gaslighting is more specific to the individual person or to partnership.
okay. So it sounds like some of the scenarios you mentioned also falls around as somebody being abusive in a situation. That's about right
Yeah.
as well.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. The gaslighter will have the victim of a physical abuse feel as though it's their fault. If they had not cooked the food the wrong way, if they had not turned the TV the certain way, if they had not flushed the toilet the right way, the gaslighter would then begin to make the victim feel like they have done something horrible and terrible, and they actually might deserve the physical abuse that they're about to receive. I have treated some people who really wondered what did they do to cause this individual to physically harm them? And I go through great lengths to identify for them they did nothing. We do not have the power to make anybody do anything they have not chosen to do. So if a physical abuser becomes physically and abusive, that's because that's that abuser's method of expressing themselves. Have nothing to do with the victim. But the gaslighter will make the gas lit feel as though it's their fault.
So basically, the person it has like they're basically abusive on their own with certain ways how they handle different scenarios about their own self around certain people, correct?
Around certain people, yeah, especially if it's the gaslighting person himself. If they're anywhere near that person, they will have some difficult times even trying to think clearly for themselves
Mhm.
because the gaslighter has made them feel as though they cannot think clearly. They don't know what they're talking about. And in actuality, they may be very accurate in their assessment of what has actually transpired.
Okay. Well, one other thing I was thinking while you were speaking, since you mentioned about gaslighting, Can some people, when they're around people who might be abusive or people in this scenario, can it rub off on somebody else and they become a gaslighter if they're around other people like that?
Great, great question. Because yes, it is. What happens is the victim feels powerless. The gaslighter feels powerful. The victim has recognized the techniques and methods that the gaslighter used on them. And if they want to be powerful, they would take that out on someone who they feel is less powerful than themselves. So, yes. And what we call it, we have a technical term for, we call it identifying with the aggressor. That the victim can now become aggressive towards someone else because they've learned how to do it by being exposed to the gaslighter.
Hmm,
Great
that's
question.
interesting. Thank you. Now, since I did mention that, who do you mostly think this mostly happens to who will fall under this type of bracket with trying to be a gaslighter anyway?
Well, almost anybody, if you're a human being, you're susceptible to this type of situation because in our interactions with partners, this is when it will usually show up. Now, again, I talked on a larger scale politically as well. A lot of politicians, maybe not whether intentionally or unintentionally, are gaslighters. They're telling people what they want to hear. You know, I'm gonna use this as an example because, forgive me, but he's just a large target for somebody like myself. But the president of the United States, he gaslights. Oh, it is incredible. The amount and the strength that he goes through to gaslight people. One particular aspect I can use as an example is the negative definition of DEI. They have turned DEI into an individual who's unqualified when
Mhm,
DEI actually means diversity, equity, and inclusion.
mhm.
That those terms are literally the American way. But these individuals have gaslit the world to now think that a DEI individual is unqualified, is uneducated, and should not be in the position that they're in. So it is a powerful message that people can utilize in order to take advantage of other individuals. But gaslighting, you know, it's a serious situation, very serious situation, because it makes the person doubt their own self. And the only person we can truly depend upon 100% of the time is ourselves. So when we lose that, we now become victim to whomever the gaslighter is or whatever ideas or thoughts that they're working with.
So basically, we'll start following what they would like us to do. We will question ourselves and we won't believe in ourselves as well.
All of those, yes, every single one of those.
How does gaslighting impact individuals thinking within institutions?
Oh, okay. Um, well, depending upon the level of the individual in the institution and what the institution purpose is. Most institutions have mission statements. And the mission statements is their guide point, their guideline for what they're going to do. The gaslighter can get in there and have the institution question itself. Now, usually you have very intelligent individuals running institutions. So the gaslighter has really got to be on their game if they're attempting to dismantle this institution or to obtain more power within the institution. Gaslighter can also be and I'm trying to think of a term other than a whistleblower, because I'm not mean a whistleblower,
Mhm.
but a person who will have no problem in reporting a coworker for some inappropriate behavior in order to get the supervisor to think that the gaslighter, is a better fit for the position. They will
Mhm.
begin to negatively disparage their coworker to their supervisor, pointing out any flaws or so-called flaws that they may think their coworker has to the supervisor, attempting to get the supervisor to really go with them. Also, manipulative ploys such as maybe bringing the supervisor gifts, um, offering to do extra work without even pay, in an attempt to get the supervisor to really have a favorable opinion of them, so they now can get the position that their coworker had. So they would do that. I once had an employee of mine, direct employee of mine. I came to the office. She wasn't in her office. So I was looking for her, and the director called me to another office. I said, okay, over the intercom. So I went to the office. There sits my employee with the two directors. And I'm going, okay, what's happening here? And they were just, well, she was having a problem because she came up with some ideas and you didn't go along with the ideas. I looked around, I looked at her, I looked at my directors. I said, first of all, she has to step out of the room. That's it. She has to step out of this room. And they knew what I was saying was organizationally appropriate. Because if you're going to confront me, you don't confront me in front of a subordinate. That gives a subordinate more power than what she actually had. So she was over there huffy about it, and she walked out the room. So I closed the door. And I began to explain. I didn't like her ideas. I thought her ideas took too much time, effort, and energy, and we'd have to make too many adjustments. But my biggest problem is, why am I in here? Well, we just thought that she had some decent. I said, yeah, this idea, and I explained to them why it was problematic. This idea was problematic. They said, oh, we didn't know about it. I said, no, you didn't. But you have me in here, and you're going to have me in here in front of her? And they both looked at each other and looked at me, and they apologized. She had gaslit them into thinking that I was just totally against her. I never found out what the reason was, because I really didn't care, actually. But she had gaslit them to challenge me for her to get what she wanted. So you have to confront these individuals, but you have to confront them with facts. You can't confront them with your emotions. If you confront them with your emotions, you're going to miss out facts. And facts are how you bring a gaslighter down. Because the gaslighter is not going to use facts. They're trying to use your emotions against you so that you can begin to doubt yourself. But I was very convinced in what I did and why I did it. So when they confronted me, I was able to give them facts. And they didn't apologize to me to tell me they would never do such a thing again. I told them I appreciate it. But was I upset? Yeah, I was very upset.
Yes, you have every right to be upset because she was double crossing you in some situation that was basically uncalled for. But just like you
Yeah,
say, if you have all the facts, you can back up whatever the person is saying, and that's what's important the most because that's your credibility that you have online, and you could represent it, right?
yes, exactly.
That was a good example, especially that was something that people can relate to because that happens like could happen during the day in different companies and things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, it does happen. Individuals will be looking out for their own goals and objectives. And if they have to misrepresent information about you in order for them to get what they want, and she has successfully gaslit my supervisors and got them thinking that for some reason I was not taking her ideas because I just didn't want to hear her ideas. But when I explained to them what her ideas would mean, then they fully understood. But the problem I had with them was they should have talked to me first without
mhm.
bringing her into the room, because they made her think that her idea was fallible. I mean, was possible, was doable. And once I explained to them what it would actually cause, they understood. But the biggest thing was you trusted her over me. And I'm your supervisor. I'm the person you appointed to run these. At the time, I was running 3 different units.
Mhm.
So you trusted me to run 3 different units, but yet you're going to take the word of my employee. So they profusely apologized. and we went out the room. I had to now struggle with not being vindictive towards her.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a struggle. But I think I was successfully able to treat her like the employee that she actually was. And I never brought up this situation.
Mm-hmm. That's what matters the most. Everything was handled at the right time, and that's all that matters.
That's what matters.
In the workplace, how does gaslighting disrupt workflow among employees?
Well, some of the examples I just mentioned that situation, because if an individual is caught up in a gaslighting situation, them doubting themselves may make them doubt their ability to carry out their responsibilities, therefore seeking assistance from another employee who has their own level of responsibility. That can generate some conflict between these two, especially if the gaslit person who doesn't trust themselves is continually relying upon someone else in order to give them the proper information. Because the gaslit lighter has caused this person to doubt their own abilities, doubt their own skill, doubt their own language, even much in some situations. So it can definitely disrupt, because if I can't trust myself and my ideas, I'll be hesitant in making moves forward in order to promote the objectives of the business. So it can be very disruptive. It can also generate conflict amongst employees, because if I have mentioned something to this employee, let's say I'm the gaslighter,
Mm-hmm.
and we had this particular type of a client, and I'm gonna just lay a general therapeutic terminology called personality disorder. Well, the personality disorder would tell one staff member, would tell them negative things that another staff member had told the client about the staff member that they're talking about. Let me try to make it a little clear. Staff member one, staff member two. Staff
Okay.
member two is talking to the client about staff number one. He's telling the gaslighter, the client is telling employee number two, employee number one says some real negative things about you. I wouldn't trust him if I was you. They're really not your friend. But don't tell them I said it. And that's the key. Don't tell them I said it. Now, employee number two has a negative opinion of employee number one. And employee number one never said anything. But employee number two now has a negative opinion about their coworker based upon what the gaslighter, the client, has told them. And I've seen that happen so many times on the psych unit I used to run. I had to have classes with my employees on how to avoid this type of thing and to always trust your coworker. Always trust your coworker. And if you had someone give you negative opinion about yourself from the client, you go get that coworker, bring them over to the client, and have the client say it again. You will quickly find that they don't have nothing to say anymore, because they can't successfully do the gaslighting to split these two staff members up away from each other.
Yes, indeed. So basically, creating a conflict among the employees, the co-workers, and really at the time, it don't even need to happen, but the person is really trying to just create some mess and some just creating stuff that don't even need to be happening at the time.
Exactly. Because the gaslighter is all about themselves. They're all
Mm-hmm.
about their own agenda and objective. And when in the space of that unit, their issue now, they're just sitting there because they've done some inappropriate things in life. And now they're sitting there with nothing better to do, except if you're that type of person, again, that personality disorder, you sit there and say, well, who can I gaslight? Who can I get all twisted up in knots, doubting themselves and doubting their skills and their ability? And when you don't have a person who's been trained on how to recognize this, they can be easily, literally wrapped around the gaslighter's finger and follow the gaslighter's instructions and desires, because the gaslighter is successfully taking away that person's ability to think for themselves.
So since you also did say that, um, what I also realize it can also happen is the person who's being affected, they might also start feeling depressed and feel like they can't do nothing for themselves, and then they just question every single thing they're doing, what they're hearing, and so on. Is that about right?
That is about right. Once you've been gaslit, it is very hard to be comfortable with yourself. It is very hard to be confident in yourself and your thoughts and your ideas. Very difficult to do that because your confidence has been sucked away from you by the gaslighter convincing you that what you were thinking is incorrect, is not truthful, is not real. And once they're able to do that, they can really disrupt an individual's ability to have healthy self-esteem and to live a good quality life, trusting their own thoughts and ideas to be accurate on any particular topic.
Hmm. Since you're saying some of this, I think I've been gaslighted a few times, but I just didn't realize it.
I would think that a number of us have suffered that, and especially if it comes from somebody who we have an affection for. Because when we have an affection for them, we naturally lower our shields of self-protection. And that person can get through to us. Where if that person has a bit of a personality disorder, yeah, they're going to do something in order to shift the power base, shift the power structure, shift the importance of who that individual they are with. I've had a number of individuals who were high profile people, and it's always amazed me how these high profile people and their wives always had trouble getting along. But when I dug deeper into it, it come and found out that the fact that the client was high profile, and the wife would tell him, "You think you all that? You think you too much? You think you the greatest thing since sliced bread?" And maybe not those exact quotes, but something along that line. And it caused a high profile person to really start doubting themselves, trying to prove to their spouse because they really love their spouse that they're not that kind of a person. So they would back off of saying things that they really wanted to say because they didn't want to be seen in the same light that their spouse was accusing them of. So they had successfully been gaslit. Now, it wasn't heavy gaslighting, but it was definitely gaslighting.
Mhm. Yeah, they were so caught off guard, they didn't know that came around them.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
next question that I would like to have a part of this interview is very touching, and some people might feel a little uncomfortable, but I knew this was something that I wanted to really mention. So the question is, what are the ways that gaslighting affects individuals racially?
Okay. Big question because it definitely impacted the African American race in America. The gaslight was the fact that African Americans were not human, that we were pretty much for animals, and that we could be herded like cows, goats, or any other kind of a farm animal. And we were convinced in that fact that we were less than, especially once they got us from Africa to America. The book and the movie Roots is a great example of how the gaslighting took place because a lot of them would take place violently. They would violently impose great pain upon to their way, their being the white population at the time. In the scene in Roots, where Kunta Kinte wanted to keep his name, but he was beaten, severely beaten. He would not accept it just by saying it. He held on to his name until he was severely beaten into submission. So, in a form of violent gaslighting, that's what that was. The other slaves on the plantation would not dare challenge their white masters because they had been gaslit to believe that they were less than, that they had to call the master for almost anything, any problem, any difficulty. They did not have the capacity to stop overcome it. And all this proved to be incorrect when you get individuals like George Washington Carver. Uh, uh, I forgot the gentleman's name who actually wrote the first almanac. Banneker, Benjamin Banneker. Also redrew Washington, D.C. from his memory because the French designer who drew up the plan for Washington, D.C. got angry, took his plans and left. Benjamin Banneker was able to go and redraw the whole lines of how Washington, D.C. was going to be built. But these individuals demonstrated African Americans were more intelligent in cases than their white counterparts. But because of the gaslighting that took place on a large scale, they were not allowed to even participate in the spoils of their own work. Many African Americans who were superstars in their time would have a gig at a white hotel, but had to go through the back door. Okay, you couldn't go through the front door; you had to go through the back door. These were forms of gaslighting to let this person feel as though counterparts. So on so many different levels, because we can talk about this particular aspect of gaslighting for a very long time, with all the multiple examples of how gaslighting infected America from this racial perspective.
I can understand what you mean. And you did get a good example with African Americans. Now, since you did mention the African American thing, which I can relate, um, what other race you think this will also affect?
Well, looking at America and how it handled racial issues, the Native American Indians, or I'm going to say the Native Americans, because the name Indians came from Christopher Columbus searching for India to trade, landed in Cuba, and decided that those people who came out from the jungle were Indians. So they put the name Indian on them. And again, attempted to disqualify them as normal, equal individuals, even to the point where the Aztec nation was brought down for the whites wanting their gold and considered them savages because they did not have belief in the Christian faith and had their own way of living. So therefore, you are now a savage. That was definitely a gaslighting example on a large scale. So a number of different groups that will come to America over the time were gaslit to believe in so much shape or form they were inferior and had to live in certain areas, boroughs of New York, certain areas where you could go into if you were of a lower economic or social class. That was also gaslighting to make you feel as though you were less than. You didn't belong with the upper class. You had to stay with your kind. When they told you to stay with your kind, that is gaslighting that you're not equal to them.
Yeah, that's a lot there. And you're right. This topic here on a racial level with gaslighting is something that will continue and it's very informative as well. But like you say, this will be another episode. So we're about to go to the next question on this one. But I like how you explained that
Okay.
because I didn't realize it really does affect you racially as much. So the examples that you gave was great. What are some ways individuals can protect themselves in situations involving gaslighting?
Um, First, the first thing I have to say is trust yourself. Trust that you are a knowledgeable, intelligent human being. And that if you come to a conclusion on a particular situation, trust that. As we talked earlier, to get prepared for this interview, I went over and did a little research just to back up and make sure what I was going to be talking about had what actually factually done, not just my own personal opinions and ideas. So if a person feels uncomfortable about a conversation because an individual attempted to gaslight them, trust yourself, seek out your information from other sources other than the individual talking to you to validate your own thoughts and ideas about whatever the topic is that you're having a conversation about. But the biggest thing is, now I guess I can go into high self-esteem, which means I love me. I would not do anything to damage or harm me. So if I come up with an idea and someone tells me my idea is faulty or incorrect or wrong, I'm going to go and check that out. I'm not just going to take their word for it. I'm going to go and check it out for myself because I have to have confidence in my own thoughts and my own ideas. So when I check it out for myself and find out the facts, I can confront the gaslighter with the realities of whatever the topic is that we're discussing.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, that is something there. So basically, the only way to protect yourself, you have to believe in yourself first, and then everything else will start to run its course and smoothly go on its way like it's supposed to. But if you don't believe in yourself
You,
first, you will
yeah,
have more problems to start off with, right?
yeah, yeah. Beautiful way to summarize it. Beautiful way to summarize.
Thank you. How can gaslighting affect relationships?
Ooh, hugely, hugely. Um, as I was talking about earlier, this particular situation, distracting with compassion. This is in a relationship. One individual noticed that their significant other was paying way too much attention to somebody else. And when got confronted with this is what the person who got confronted with stated. I love you so much, and you know I never intentionally hurt your feelings. How could you think I was flirting with her when you're the only one for me? That is definitely a relationship issue. That the individual who did something inappropriate was now attempting to tell the person who noticed it, don't believe your lies, believe me. And he with some positive stuff. I love you. You're the only one I care about. It's only you. How could you think such a thing? So if that person is not confident in themselves, they may go along with the program and actually think that maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe he's really not doing something that bad, or she's not doing something that bad,
Mhm.
because now I've been gaslit to question my own thoughts and ideas. And relationships are places where gaslighting takes place way more than what I care to think about.
Hmm. Now, since you did say that about relationships, was there a time when you were younger that you saw something like this and you didn't notice it?
Actually, yes, there was. And when I first saw it, I thought the gaslighter was slick. I thought, wow, how you got out of that? This individual had been caught having an affair, and when confronted, told the person, "You believe them over me? I thought I was important to you. Why are you believing them over me?" What happened? The person who had a relationship with, he started having an affair with the girl that worked right next to her. And when the girl started talking about their relationship, she went back and confronted the gentleman who told her, "Why you believe her? You don't believe me. I don't know that girl. I don't know nothing about that girl." And told her, "You need to leave me alone if you're going to believe other people over me." And the young lady said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I believed her. I don't know what I was thinking." And I'm looking at him saying, "Wow, wow, how you did that?" But he gaslit his lady to thinking that his inappropriate behavior was really all in her head. It never actually happened. And it was happening every day.
So since you gave that example, by hearing that, that happens like every day with a lot of people, and then also you hear that through like different television shows, movies. So that's a example that people can relate to on a more on a level, on an everyday level, correct?
On an everyday level. Yeah,
Mhm.
gaslighting isn't some super psychological thing. It is human beings attempting to get their needs met by manipulating the thoughts and ideas of someone else. And that happens on a daily basis. Hopefully, this topic will enlighten some people into recognizing some of the signs of gaslighting. Because there's a lot of work out there have been done on identifying gaslighting. And I hope your listeners look into it. Go on your internet, look up gaslighting and what it looks like, what it feels like. And there's tons of information to educate yourself on this particular topic.
Well, since you just mentioned that, can you just list a few ways people, what are some of the signs of it if they were in a situation like that?
Well, one is, let's say, denying, well, let me do it, withholding information.
Okay.
Some gaslighting partners will play mind tricks on their loved ones by insisting they told them to do something when they never did. Then they will get mad at their loved one for forgetting. It might play out like, what do you mean you didn't pick up the dry cleaning? I told you about it this morning. We're not paying attention. You are not paying attention again. Okay.
Hmm.
So now the person never told the fellow to pick up the clothing, but they're going to put that in their mind and then go the closing statement. Were you not paying attention again? The again is the punch,
Hmm.
making the person think, wait, I did that. And now they all twist it up. Um, Discounting achievements. Gaslighting partners often feel intimidated and jealous of their partner's success. As a result, they will often tear down or question various accomplishments. For example, they might engage in backhanded compliments and phrases like, "That's great, you got a promotion," but it's the bummer you're still so underpaid in your role. So you try to make like the person got a promotion,
Hmm.
but then you're gonna knock them down by saying, "Yeah, but you still not making enough money." So you're making them feel that this positive thing is really not a positive thing.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So in there's some other there's one more I'm gonna read to you. Denying abuse. In cases of physical abuse, an abuser might flat out deny what happened. They might insist, for example, that their partner tripped, fell, or hurt themselves in another way. At times, they may even be so convincing that the victim starts believing their version of the truth.
Hmm.
Now, that one is a difficult one to pull off, but if you've got an individual with low self esteem already, you might actually be able to pull that off. I didn't really hurt you. I accidentally touched you and you fell into the wall. That's where you got that big gash on your head.
Hmm.
Oh, you just clumsy. You just slipping and falling all over the place. I didn't really touch you. Now, that's a heavy one, but unfortunately, some individuals, I've treated people who felt they were the reason why they were abused by their lover.
Hmm.
If I hadn't have done something, or if I did do this, he would not have hit me.
Hmm.
No, no, no. One of my main therapy approaches sometimes like that is to identify the fact that we cannot make anybody do anything they do not want to do already. Make them
Hmm.
do that. They decide to do that on their own. Yes, I'm gonna smack you. It wasn't because you burned the pancake, did because they just felt like smacking you. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Um, what I also notice about some parts about gaslighting, it can be a part that can really get start upsetting you, and it's a really touchy it can be a really touchy situation, and it can really affect you in ways that you didn't realize can actually happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and then the examples that we basically gave today, we gave it on a level that people can relate to, plus also in ways that it can physically affect you. In other words, in relationships, people are being abused and like that. And that's the part right there that I think more people might can relate to, especially if they was in an abuse situation, or they saw people in a situation like that, and now they know how to handle it or tell the person this is what you need to do, or for themselves, they know like, okay, this situation happened, but now I know how to resolve it, plus also get myself out of it if I don't have to get like this in the future. Correct?
yeah, yeah. Um, Knowing again, the biggest weapon that you have against being gaslit is to know who you are, to trust
Hmm.
yourself, to trust your ideas, trust your thoughts, trust your senses. And if you do have a question, check it out from some third party or some non-emotional entity that will only give you pure, cold, hard facts about the subject matter which you're dealing with. Because if
Hmm.
you're dealing with an individual who has a vested interest, basically they need you to behave and they want you to behave, they will do anything necessary in order to get you to move in the direction and the means that they want you to move in.
Hmm. Yes, that's right. I can agree with that. Well, we have come down to the last question. Now, this question is not related to the topic, which is gaslighting. This is a question I just would like to ask you to see how you feel about different things about life. The last question
Okay.
is, what motivates you to achieve any of your goals in life?
The desire to accomplish goals, to gain knowledge, to move forward in my existence, to make this not a stagnant existence, but one where I'm constantly attempting to experience as much about life as I possibly can. Because technically we're not here for a very long time, and there's so much to engage in, so much to absorb, so much to see and be involved in. So what keeps me moving is that drive to constantly improve, constantly be exposed to new and different things. In my personal profession, I pretty much prefer to take on the more difficult clients. And when I worked in an institution and worked with other therapists, they would always wonder why I would do that. Because to me, I would learn more by dealing with the
Mhm.
difficult client than dealing with the easy client. And they used to always make a joke. If you ever hear people screaming in the hall, there's got to be coming out of Vic's office because that's where the most difficult clients will usually end up at. But again, I learned a great deal about human behavior from dealing with multiple things that normally other people stayed away from. So what motivates me to learn as much as I possibly can about this thing called life.
Mhm. Yeah, I can agree with that. You gotta stay motivated, determined, and yes, will fly by, so you have to stay on a certain target that you would like to achieve, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Well, I like how you answer that question. Just to let you know, that was the last question for the interview. Now, the
Okay.
part we're about to do now is, how can you tell my listeners how they can contact you if they would like more information regarding your practice and about you as well?
Okay. Well, you can go on Psychology Today and look up my name, and that will tell you a great deal about me. But if they want to do it directly, just call my office, area code 504-362-9010. And if someone looking for some assistance from therapeutic nature, we will let you know at that point in time if I have an opening. Because fortunately for me, that I have a very busy practice. So unfortunately for people calling, I might not be able to get you in as soon as possible. But I will try to direct the person to another therapist who I trust will provide the same type of services that I will provide. But again, Psychology Today has a lot of my information. And I think you can go online, just pull me up, Victor M. Sims, LCSW, and I should pop up somewhere that will give you a lot of information about who I am and what I do.
Yes. And one other thing, for people that's not in your area, what advice would you give them for they can seek a therapist as well in their area?
Well, the one good thing about modern times, therapy is getting to be more popular. So they can seek information from their area by going to their computers or going online anywhere and asking for therapists near me, psychotherapists near me. Make sure psychotherapist, if you just say therapist, you're going to get a lot of physical therapists as well going to pop up in your search. Or act for psychotherapists near me, and you should pop up with a great deal. Also, going on, if you have insurance, get in touch with your insurance company about therapists that they have in their information, and that's another place where you can find them. Going to your state, what is the state attorney, not attorney general, the secretary of state, secretary of state. Because if a person is practicing therapy, they have to turn in the Secretary of State their name, their business location. Better Business Bureau will also have the name of various therapists in the area that the person is in that's looking for therapeutic assistance. So there are a lot of different avenues to get to a therapist if you really need one.
I totally agree. And once again, thank you for providing your information about your practice and giving information for everybody else who is not in the area. And once again, Victor Sims, thank you for being a guest on Consulting Between Friends podcast. I enjoyed interviewing you today, and I was glad you was able to be here today.
It was my pleasure to provide information. One of my goals in this life that I live is to share as much information as many people as possible, with the desire that it will benefit them in some way and form of them having a more satisfying life.
Yes, I can agree. And thank you.
You're welcome.
After a short break, we will return. We are back. In closing, I hope you enjoyed this episode and the information discussed it. I am glad I had the opportunity to interview Victor Sims Sr. and learn the meaning of gaslighting. The topic of gaslighting has lots of angles that everyone can relate to. Social worker Victor Sims provided excellent examples, broken down the information, and made it relatable to the audience. I encourage everyone to reflect on the information shared about gaslighting and consider how it may apply to issues in their own lives. If you or anyone you know needs to speak with a social worker or therapist, seek their advice and improve your personal health. One last thing, remember to support local businesses and choose your company wisely, or you will pay the price later. Thank you for listening to Consulting Between Friends. This podcast is available on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts, as well as other platforms that are available. So, like and subscribe. Need to contact us and leave us a comment? You can find us on Instagram at Consulting the letter B Friends. Once again, Consulting B Friends. And email address is consultingbfriends@gmail.com. Once again, consultingbfriends@gmail.com. Thanks again for your support. If you have an extra minute, it would be greatly appreciated if you could answer a few questions regarding the quality of the podcast. The link will be in the description. Consulting Between Friends. Thanks to everyone for making this possible. The host, Michael Holmes Jr., the producer and content creator, Michael Holmes Jr., cover art by Michael Holmes Jr., original music, a DJ named Slash, references, Medical News Today, Psychology Today, special guests, Victor Sims Sr., licensed clinical social worker, content distributor, My Producer Podcasts,